Hello everybody! Today I'm going to do a video just about basic embossing, and a couple things that you need for embossing are ink pads, the powders, and a heat gun. Now I'm going to talk about the inks first. You want to use an ink that is going to stay wet, meaning it's going to be juicy, it's going to last longer so it can grab the powders. So inks that I recommend, Versamark watermark pad. This is an ink pad that, it just stamps and makes things a shade darker, but this is a good wet pad for embossing. You could buy a regular embossing ink pad, or I'm going to show you something neat to do with pigment ink pads. And that can include the chalk, but dye-based ink pads are not great for embossing. They dry so quickly, it's very hard to get the embossing powder to stick. So I'm going to recommend these inks. Now let's get started. So I'm going to take my stamp here, and this is from Butterfly Beauty from Stampendous. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink it up, and when I ink my stamps, I always put the ink pad onto the stamp. Okay, I'm going to stamp my image. You can see how it just makes, the watermark makes it just a shade darker, and I'm going to take my embossing powder and I'm going to sprinkle it over the top. There we go. And I'm just going to tap the excess off. And there you can see the embossing powder is on the image. And what I do then is I take a scrap piece of paper and then I just slide the powders right back into their little jar. And then what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to heat set this. And I'm going to grab my embossing gun. This is a valuable tool. I know people say, oh, you can just use a toaster. Please don't use your toaster. It's not a good idea. So this is a heat gun, and what you're going to do is, it's a good investment. I've had this for 11 years. You're going to turn it on, and you're going to put it over the top. If you get too close, you can burn it. If you get too far away, it'll take too long to heat up. So I'm going to turn it on. It's going to be a little noisy, and then you can watch it heat up. And there you have the embossed image, and you can see how I slowly moved the gun over the top of the image and got the powders all melted, and there you have this butterfly. Now another thing you can do is you can take your pigment ink, and I'm going to stamp this butterfly, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a detail clear embossing powder, and basically it's just going to emboss a clear coat over the top of my color. I'm going to stamp my butterfly, and I'm using that deep lagoon color I like so much right now. Stamp my image. Once again, I'm going to pour some powders over the top, and you can see I kind of lift it, get a little angle, start at the top, and just kind of work the powders down the image. Okay, you can see, and once again, I'm going to take my piece of paper, and I'm just going to slide them back in there and save those extra powders. And then I'm going to heat this so you can see the results. So there you can see how by having a clear powder you can emboss all your different colored inks. So you can buy different colored powders or a clear one and emboss your inks. Hope that taught you a little bit about embossing. Thanks so much.